The bell rang, the hallways emptied, and the school bathroom fell silent, except for the sound of sneakers shuffling closer. Year-old Amara, a quiet black girl who had recently transferred to Meadow Ridge Middle School, stepped in just to fix her ponytail. The school was new, the faces unfamiliar, and so far her days had been filled with stares and whispers. But today felt different. Tense. Heavy. Like something was about to happen. She had barely started adjusting her hair in the mirror when the bathroom door creaked open. One girl stepped in. Then another. Then two more. Kelsey, Brittany, Paige, and Jenna, the same girls who had mocked her for wearing her natural hair. The same girls who whispered rude comments when she answered questions in class with her calm Southern accent. Now, they were here, alone with her, cornering her. Amara's heart pounded. She glanced up into the mirror and saw them standing, behind her blocking the only exit. "You think you're better than us?" Kelsey asked, arms folded like a wall. "No one even likes you here," Paige added with a smirk. "You should go back to where you came from," Jenna sneered. The walls of the bathroom seemed to close in. No one else around. No teachers. No classmates. No help. Just Amara and 4 bullies ready to humiliate her. But what happened next was something none of them saw coming. Most kids would have panicked. Some might have cried or begged for mercy. Others might have lashed out, but Amara did something different. She stayed still. Slowly, she reached into her hoodie pocket, not for pepper spray, not for her phone to call for help, but for her earbuds. She calmly connected them to her phone, turned the volume up, and played a voice recording. At first, the girls laughed. "What is this, some music video?" Brittany scoffed, but as the sound played, it wasn't music. It was Amara's voice, strong, rhythmic, and full of power. "You say I don't belong, but my roots grow deep and strong. You try to dim my light, but this skin, this voice, it's right." Amara turned the volume louder, and then, without breaking eye contact, she began to recite the rest of the poem aloud. The bullies were stunned. Instead of fear, Amara delivered, lines like a warrior speaking truth to power. "You mock my tone, my curls, my pride, but I will not run. I will not hide." Each line echoed against the cold tile walls. Her voice was calm but fierce, like it had been waiting all along to be heard. By the time she finished, the girls weren't smirking anymore. They stood frozen, unsure of what to next. Unbeknownst to anyone, a student in the hallway had caught part of the moment on camera. The bathroom door hadn't closed all the way, and the student had recorded Amara's poem from just outside. The video, barely a minute long, was uploaded online that same afternoon. Within hours, it exploded. People were sharing it with hashtags like Jawarn Stand with Amara and Poetry Power. Students from the school started leaving positive comments on her old posts. Teachers reached out. Even the principal called her parents to say how impressed he was. By the next morning, the video had over 500,000 views, and it wasn't just students watching. A well-known spoken word artist reposted it, calling Amara a young queen with a fearless heart. The bullies? Suddenly, the girls who thought they ruled the hallways were silent. Their classmates were no longer laughing with them, but looking at them with disappointment and disgust. When the video reached the school administration, a formal investigation began immediately. While Amara hadn't physically been hurt, it was clear she had been cornered, harassed, and intimidated. The school suspended all 4 girls for 2 weeks and enrolled them in mandatory counseling and anti-bullying workshops. Kelsey, the leader of the group, tried to act like it was no big deal, but even she couldn't ignore the backlash. Students unfollowed her on social media. One of her own friends told her, "You embarrassed all of us." Later that week, Amara received a direct message from Kelsey. "I'm sorry. I didn't think you'd fight back like that. I was wrong." Amara stared at the message for a long time. She didn't respond, not out of hate, but because she knew her power didn't come from arguing. It came from knowing who she was. Amara's life had changed, but not just because of one viral video. She started her own YouTube channel called Speak Loud with Amara, where she shared poetry, confidence tips, and her story. Thousands of kids who had also been bullied started following her and sharing their experiences. One day during a school assembly, the principal invited her to speak. Amara stood on the stage with a mic in hand, this time not in fear but with pride. "They tried to silence me," she told the audience. "But I realized something powerful. When you speak your truth, the right people will hear you." She didn't need revenge. She didn't need to fight. She turned pain into poetry and became unstoppable. Call to action for viewers. Have you ever been bullied or felt outnumbered? Remember, you have a voice and it matters. Amara's story proves that standing up doesn't always mean fighting back. Sometimes it means speaking up when it matters most. If this story inspired you, like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear this today. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Amara's shoes? And don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss another story that could change a life. As the girls stepped in closer, ready to humiliate her again, Amara didn't cry. She didn't beg. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Not to call for help, not to record them, but to play a video. Confused, the bullies paused. They exchanged glances. This wasn't the reaction they expected. A video began playing. The audio echoed off the tiled walls of the empty bathroom. It was Amara's voice. Calm, focused, powerful. "You call me different. I call it divine. You say I'm too dark. I say I shine." It was poetry. Her poetry. A spoken word piece she had recorded weeks ago on her old cracked phone sitting alone in her bedroom. At first, the girls laughed. "Is this supposed to scare us?" Brittany snorted. But Amara didn't flinch. She turned up the volume. The words grew louder, clearer, stronger. Then, with a deep breath, she raised her eyes from the screen and stared straight at them. And then, she began to speak. Word for word, she matched the voice in the video. But this time it was live. And this time, it came not just from her lips, but from deep in her soul. "You whisper I'm weird, that I'll never fit in. But I'm not here to shrink. I was born to win." Her voice didn't shake, her hands didn't tremble. She stood tall, eyes locked, words slicing through silence. "My skin is not a joke. My curls are not a flaw. My voice, my walk, my pride. They leave you in awe." Paige stepped back slightly. Her smirk faded. Kelsey, the boldest one, tried to interrupt. "What even is this?" But her voice cracked. Because deep down she knew this wasn't just a poem. This was Amara fighting back. Not with fists, not with screams, but with something far more powerful. Truth. The bullies stood frozen. The bathroom just moments ago filled with taunts now felt like a courtroom. And Amara was delivering a verdict. "You don't define me. I know who I am, a queen in my truth. I don't need your exam." When she finished, she let the silence hang. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the air in the room felt heavier. Then Amara calmly put her phone back in her pocket and walked right past them. What Amara didn't know at that moment was that someone had seen it. One of the 8th grade boys, Michael, had noticed the group heading into the bathroom and sensed something was off. He'd been leaning nearby when he heard voices rising and had instinctively hit record on his phone through the barely open door. He only caught the tail end of the poem, but that clip was enough. He uploaded it on his private Snapchat story. Then someone shared it on TikTok. By the time Amara got home, that day she had 3 unread DMs from classmates she didn't even know. By dinner, her mom walked in holding her phone. "Sweetheart, is this you?" The video had reached over 200,000 views in just a few hours. The comment section was flooded. "This girl is amazing. That's how you handle bullies. Why am I crying right now?" Even people from other schools were commenting, asking who she was, sharing the video and tagging poets, artists, and even celebrities. What was supposed to be a moment of intimidation became a moment of transformation. Facing the fallout. The next day, the school was buzzing. Some students clapped when Amara walked down the hallway. Others whispered her name with admiration. Teachers gave her quiet nods of respect. The bullies? They were now the ones being watched. By the end of second period, the principal made an announcement. All students involved in the recent bathroom incident will be called in for questioning. Each of the 4 girls was pulled aside and questioned. Separately. The school had the video. They had witnesses. There was no way to deny what had happened. Amara didn't want to press charges or make a big scene, but the principal assured her, what you did was powerful. But what they did? It still has consequences. The bullies were given 2-week suspensions and required to attend weekly sessions with the school counselor on bullying, bias, and emotional accountability. And that was just the start. Her voice, her power. That weekend, Amara sat in her AA room staring at the thousands of comments still pouring in. One message stood out. It was from a verified account, a well-known black spoken word artist who had reposted the clip with the caption, "This young sister reminded me why we write. Power, grace, fire." Amara smiled. She had always written poems in her notebook, but now she realized something deeper. Her words didn't just belong on paper. They belonged in the world. She started a YouTube channel called Truth in Verse, where she shared her poetry, her story, and messages to other teens facing bullying. Her first video, the full poem she had delivered in that bathroom. It ended with this message. When they try to silence you, don't lower your voice. Raise your truth. And just like that, the girl who once stood cornered in fear became a symbol of fearless self-expression. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories of courage and comeback. What would you have done in Amara's place? Share your thoughts below. Hit the bell to never miss another story that inspires and empowers. The bell rang. The halls emptied. The school bathroom was still except for the echo of sneakers. Creeping closer. Amara, just 14, had recently transferred to Meadow Ridge Middle School. She was quiet, kept to herself, and carried the weight of being the new girl, the only black girl in most of her classes. She had entered the bathroom only to fix her ponytail, but within seconds the door creaked open, and in stepped 4 girls, Kelsey, Brittany, Paige, and Jenna, the same ones who had mocked her natural curls, mimicked her southern accent, and whispered cruel jokes when she walked by. Amara turned, slowly, her back now pressed to the sink. The 4 of them blocked the exit. "You think you're better than us?" Kelsey sneered. "No one even likes you here," Paige added with a cruel smile. But Amara didn't break. She didn't cry. She didn't run. Instead, she reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out her phone. Not to call for help, not to record, but to play something. A video, her video. The bullies stared as Amara hit play, and through the phone speaker came her own voice, strong and unshaken. "You call me different. I call it divine. You say I'm too dark. I say I shine." At first, they laughed. But Amara raised her head, locked eyes with them, and began reciting the rest aloud. Line for line. "My skin is not a joke. My voice is not a threat. You won't shrink me down, I haven't even grown yet." Her voice echoed off the walls, clear, fearless, and full of pride, and by the time she finished, the bathroom was dead silent. The clip that changed everything, what no one expected, was that someone had been listening and recording. A 7th grader named Marcus had been walking by when he noticed the girls cornering Amara. Something felt off. He paused just outside the door, cracked slightly open, and hit record on his phone. He caught the tail end of Amara's poem, just enough to hear her finish with, "You laugh 'cause I'm bold. I smile 'cause I'm free. You wanted me, silent, but I found me." Marcus uploaded the 47-second clip to TikTok that afternoon with the caption, "New girl just owned her bullies with poetry." Within an hour, it had thousands of views. By the time Amara got home, it had crossed $100,000. By midnight, it was trending. From loner to legend. By lunchtime the next day, the entire school was buzzing. Some students called her brave, others called her weird, but nearly everyone was talking about her. Teachers pulled her aside to say they were proud of her. The principal called her into the office, not to punish her, but to check in and thank her for showing strength through art. In the cafeteria, a group of 8th graders invited her to sit with them. And the bullies? Suddenly, they weren't laughing anymore. Kelsey and the others walked the halls with their heads down. A few students told them off. Others simply ignored them, because now Amara was the name everyone knew, not for what she wore or how she talked, but for how she stood up. Viral power. Within 24 hours, Amara's video crossed 300,000 views. The comments were overwhelming. This gave me chills. Queen energy right there. Never let them dim your light. I wish I was this brave in middle school. Then came the real twist. A famous black spoken word artist reposted the clip with the caption, "This is why we write. This is why we rise." Amara couldn't believe it. The same poem she'd written in her notebook during lunch breaks, the one she'd practiced softly in her bedroom mirror, was now being shared around the world. A local news station reached out and aired a feature on her. Her parents watched, tears in their eyes, and for the first time since starting at Meadow Ridge, Amara felt like she belonged, not by shrinking, but by shining. The girl who wouldn't break. The school took action too. After reviewing the eye-to-eye footage and hearing witness accounts, the 4 bullies were suspended for 2 weeks and assigned mandatory counseling. Their parents were called, and they were warned. Future behavior like this would have zero tolerance. As for Amara, she didn't ask for revenge. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Instead, she launched a small YouTube channel called Speak Loud with Amara. She posted her poems, shared her thoughts on bullying, and encouraged other kids to find their voices. Her first video? The full version of the poem that silenced 4 bullies. In it, she ends with, "If you're watching this and you feel small, know that your voice matters no matter how tall. Speak up, speak loud, and don't you hide, because there's power in you, deep inside." And just like that, a moment meant to shame her became the moment that shaped her. The new girl. She wasn't just a student anymore, she was a symbol of strength, a fighter with no fists, only fire in her words. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Amara's shoes? Like if her words gave you chills. Subscribe. For more stories that inspire, empower, and remind you, your voice is your superpower. The school didn't waste time. After the video went viral, administrators launched a full investigation. Teachers were interviewed, students were questioned, and the footage, both Amara's poetry video and the recording Marcus had taken, was reviewed carefully. The evidence was undeniable. Amara had been cornered, mocked, and bullied. And while she had responded with courage and grace, the actions of the 4 girls were serious. The school issued a 2-week suspension to all 4, but more importantly, they were each enrolled in mandatory anti-bullying and racial sensitivity programs. It wasn't just about punishment, it was about learning, growth, accountability. Still, for Amara, it didn't undo what had happened. The memory of standing there outnumbered and alone stayed with her. But then, something unexpected happened. Later that week, a message popped up on her phone. It was from Kelsey, the ringleader. The one who had first stepped into the bathroom with crossed arms and cruel words. The message read, "I didn't understand how much my words hurt until I saw how strong you were. I'm sorry." Amara stared at the screen. Was this real? Did Kelsey really mean it? Or was this just guilt now that everyone had turned on her? She didn't respond right away. Instead, she took a deep breath and showed the message to her parents. Her mom read it slowly, then looked up at her. "You don't have to reply today," she said gently. "You don't have to forgive her tomorrow, or ever. But remember, you already won the moment you walked away with your dignity." Her dad nodded. "Forgiveness is your choice, but peace, that's already yours." And in that moment, Amara realized something. The poem wasn't just words. It wasn't just a performance or a defense mechanism. It had become a mirror, one that forced others to see themselves, to reflect, to reconsider. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need validation. She had used her voice, and that voice had changed things. Legacy of her voice. A week later, Amara stood at the front of the school auditorium during a student assembly. The principal invited her to speak, not about the bullying, but about finding your voice in hard moments. She was nervous. Her palms were sweaty. But when she looked out into the crowd, some faces supportive, some curious, some unsure, she smiled, because she knew exactly who she was now. She read a new poem, one about courage, one about truth, one about being seen, not as a victim, but as a survivor, a storyteller, and a light in the dark. When she finished, the entire room stood and clapped, even Kelsey. Final words. Later that night, Amara sat in her room, watching the sunset pour orange light through her window. She thought about how a bathroom confrontation turned into a viral video, how a poem turned into a turning point, how her quiet strength became louder than any insult. And she realized, sometimes, power doesn't come from fighting back. Sometimes it comes from speaking up, from standing tall, from refusing to be small. Amara still hadn't replied to Kelsey's message. Maybe she would one day, or maybe not. But one thing was clear. She didn't need anyone else to tell her who she was. She already knew. Speak up even when your voice shakes. You never know who it might reach. Amara, age 14. What would you have done in Amara's shoes? Share your story or comment below. Like if her strength inspired you. Subscribe for more stories that give voice to the voiceless. Within weeks, Amara's life transformed. She was no longer just the new girl. She was the girl who stood up, who spoke out, who didn't back down when the pressure was on. The viral video caught the attention of local organizations, and soon, Amara was invited to speak at a youth empowerment event hosted by the city council. The auditorium was filled with students from across the district. Many of them had seen her video, but this time they were seeing her in person. She stepped up to the podium, heart racing, knees a little shaky. But she smiled. She looked out at the crowd and began with the same words that had once echoed in that school bathroom. You call me different. I call it divine. By the time she finished, the room was on its feet. That event sparked something bigger. Amara began posting more of her spoken word poetry online, on TikTok, on Instagram, and eventually on her own YouTube channel, which she named Words with Amara. Her channel wasn't just poetry. It became a space where she talked about being different, coping with bullying, dealing with anxiety, celebrating your identity, and most importantly, learning to love yourself. In one video, she said, "We're told to stay quiet, not to make it worse. But silence never saved me. Words did." Her content began to connect with kids and teens across the country. Messages flooded her inbox. Your poems helped me speak up. You made me feel proud of my skin. I thought I was alone until I found your channel. What started as a terrifying bathroom encounter turned into the spark of her future. Shine, even when cornered. One afternoon, Amara sat on her bedroom floor, phone in hand, recording a video for her growing subscriber base. No fancy setup. No script, just her truth. She looked into the lens and said, I want to tell you something that I wish someone told me sooner. Being cornered doesn't make you weak. It gives you a chance to stand tall. If they try to silence you, speak louder. If they try to shame you, shine brighter. The world doesn't get to decide your value, you do. And your voice, its power. Use it. That video alone hit 1 million views. And that quote? It started showing up on posters in classrooms, on t-shirts, on phone wallpapers, even on murals. At schools trying to fight back against bullying, Amara's voice, once mocked, once dismissed, was now inspiring thousands. Courage that rhymes. People often expect heroes to wear capes, to come charging in with fists raised and battle cries loud, but Amara's story proves something different. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it rhymes. Sometimes it walks into a bathroom full of bullies and chooses to speak poetry instead of hate. Sometimes it posts a video with trembling hands and shaky breath, but does it anyway. Sometimes it's a quiet girl with a notebook who refuses to be small, and that courage, it changes everything. Amara's legacy and what she wants. You to know, today Amara continues to write. She performs at local events, mentors younger students, and is even working on publishing a small book of poems titled Cornered But Not Crushed. She says she never imagined any of this, but she's proud, not because she's famous, but because she turned pain into power. If you asked her what she wants other kids to know, she'd say this: don't wait for someone to rescue you. Be your own rescue. If they laugh, let them. If they stare, let them. But never, ever let them define you. You're not too much. You're not too different. You're exactly who you're meant to be. So speak, even if your voice shakes. Final. Note to the viewer: Amara's story is more than just a viral moment. It's a reminder to all of us that words have weight, and that even in the darkest moments, you have the power to shine. So if you've ever felt small, if you've ever been mocked, cornered, or made to feel like you don't belong, let this story be your spark, because you matter, and your voice. It might be the one thing that someone else out there needs to hear. Comment below. Has someone ever tried to silence you? Like if Amara's strength gave you chills. Subscribe for more real stories that lift voices and spark change. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is speak. Let me know if you'd like. YouTube description, thumbnail ideas, narration script, formatting or background, music talk theme suggestions. Happy to help complete your full video package.